Hey everyone, and welcome to Modular Podcast number two. My name is Chris, and with me today is.
Hey, I'm Ashley.
So, as you can see, a little bit of a format change here. Um, but what would be really great is if we unmute X so they can hear us too. Hang on one second. All right, let's try that again. Hello everyone, and welcome to Modular Podcast number two. I'm Chris, and with me today is.
I'm Ashley.
All right. Do sorry about that. We're still figuring out how to do video and audio at the exact same time, so it's definitely a challenge for sure. But we wanted to welcome everyone out, and with any luck, people can hear us. If you can, give us a thumbs up and let us know inside of Telegram chat, since X doesn't really show us much anything um, regarding
It's
chats or
Friday, though.
anything.
It's Friday,
It
yes.
is Friday. We finally made it.
Yes, yes. Okay.
So,
Hope everybody's doing good.
absolutely. And I guess with that, we're going to do a couple different things this go around. We're going to start off with basically, we're going to start off with community questions, and then we're going to pivot over to, just some general news stories just to see how it feels and everything like that. As always, be sure to let us know what you would like it for us to talk about. If there's anything out there that you think would be really interesting for the show. And with that said, I guess we'll go on ahead and get into it.
You want to get started?
Let's do
So
it.
let's back up. Chris is the founder and the CEO of Modulr, and I'm Ashley. I'm his assistant. I'm just going to say assistant because it could get a long list there. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead with this community questions, and we're going to start off with Chris. What's new with Modular.gig?
All right. Well, we made quite a bit of progress this week. We're still in testing mode though. So one of the things that we're really looking out for right now is we're trying to um, go through all the different types of scenarios that could potentially happen during someone, posting a job and then having another person sort of receive that job. Um, with That being said, all the wiring is in there. Theoretically, today you could post a job. Um, do realize that it is actually using real credits at this point. So, if you were to go out and post a job, one of the requirements is that you put in a certain amount of what we call trust, which will utilize our credit system, so that there is sort of like a fund off to the side in case a customer were to get hurt or if there was damages applied during that particular job type. Um, so you can do that today. You can post it today, but do keep in mind that that system is real and it is active. So
So anyone can
yeah.
list on that list.
Yeah. Now we do have it a very short list of items that you can list for. So I know that electronics repair is one of them. Lawn mowing, I believe, is another. Base level delivery services is yet another one. Um, there's another big one. I keep on forgetting what it is. But we have a ton of different items that are out right now. And we're having to literally go through each and every single one of them and sort of, go through what we call user stories, which is basically we pretend that we have a client or a customer, and then, what happens during that entire process and making sure that, all of it's nice and neat and it actually does what it's intended
Right,
to do.
yeah.
And it feels good. That's the other thing. But everyone's more than welcome to try it. But do keep in mind that we're still testing it right now. So I wouldn't necessarily call it live. I would say definitely
Testing,
alpha. Yeah, still
testing.
testing.
Have to
Yeah, it's
get
a
through
test.
all the bugs and make sure it's perfect. Perfect. Gotta be perfect. But just you guys let us know what you think about it, and if y'all have any problems, just hit us up in the chat or just reach out. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next question. I think we had like three or four this go around.
Okay.
So why wasn't the AI model working for some people?
Well, this is a really good question. And actually, it was a really great opportunity for us because that was literally a bug that we didn't see coming. So by default, whenever we go in and we do test, it automatically goes to what we call our providers. Um, the default state for normal production is to actually go commercial. So we did a couple different items in the background. First and foremost, we made it so that it will always default over to the provider state, which is, pretty uh, smart on our part because obviously we want to promote our providers more so than the commercial models. But the other thing is that if you do end up on a model or in a mode where it actually doesn't have a large language model attached to it, what happens is that inside of the chat, it will redirect you to the provider state or any state that actually does have a model associated with it. So that was a really big change on our end. Hopefully, it was a UI improvement. And yeah, whenever it comes to stuff like that, it's always critical to, put that into the chats because, we look at feedback very seriously. um, and to me, that was a really big piece of feedback because once I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, that's not good. Even when we do wire up production models like that, there could come a time where we have a bit of a hiccup. So we do want to make sure in those cases that we're able to be able to fall back to something that actually does work because not everyone's technical
Right.
and people are not going to be able to sort of figure it out on their own. So it's a really great opportunity to clean up our UI system.
I'm not technical. This guy, he's technical. Yeah. Okay, so another question was, do I need to update my Android phone to use the app?
That is a really good question. So the app is still underway, but one of the things that we do whenever we're doing, and I'm assuming that we're talking about the proper modular app, not the client app. The client app is sort of released. We
I'm
have an
assuming that's what
APK
it was. Yeah.
available. But yeah, I think the proper modular app, which is what we had polled about not that long ago, um, that one right there, what we do whenever we design anything is we go through an 80/20 philosophy. So what does 80% of our users actually want and look at? Um, and that makes the most sense because we want to have as many people as possible sort of congregate in and utilize the product. So whenever you develop an application inside of Android Studio, one of the things is that you pick a target or a platform target. And generally speaking, Android or Google is pretty good about this, is that they'll actually have a recommended session, and it's based off of how many users are actually on that version. So yeah, we're basically going back. I believe it was 10 versions ago. So literally just about every single phone out there is going to be capable of doing it. Um, there might be some weird niche cases, and if so, definitely let us know. But yeah, as far as that goes, our ultimate goal is to make sure as many people can hit on it as possible. So we target as many devices as possible in order to, hopefully be able to reach more
Is
users.
it, what, is it going to take some time to get to be able to cover like the iPhones and stuff? So like
Hmm.
the Android, we're starting off with the Android, right? So, but I'm assuming this question was for that because,
Right.
like,
Well, this one I think was more specific to Android, but I think we had another question in here. Let me take a look. Yeah,
why,
where we were going to talk about the poll update.
right?
So what we found was, and this is pretty wild, our community was evenly split on this. So it was a perfect 50/50, at least the last time I looked at the poll, where half of the audience said iPhone and the other one said Android.
I'm
So
iPhone. He's
yeah.
Android. I
Well,
kind of
I
miss my
do both,
Android. Yeah, I miss
but
my iPhone too, but
the thing is that in that particular case, since it was literally a 50/50 split, what we're going to do, going back to that idea of 80/20, is we're going to look at the market, and the market says that, there are far more Android users than there are iPhone users. So we'll be targeting Android first for sure. And obviously, with that said, we're going to be targeting. I wish I knew the code name for it. They quit calling it desserts. I remember back in the day, it was like Oreo and ice cream and everything else, which is
Was there a
funny.
cake with it?
I think I think there was a cake,
I would say,
but
don't get technical on me now because you know I
but
don't know that stuff.
but um, but yeah, I can't remember where we're at right now. But long story short, we're targeting as many users as we can in order to be sure that we can capture as much audience and space as possible.
Yeah, we'll get there, but Android is what's coming first. So,
Mhm. Yep.
all right, well, all right. So moving on. What makes Modular.gig different from a normal job board?
Oh, that's a good general question. Um, I think as far as that goes, what makes it very unique is that most of the job boards that you see right now, and I'm thinking things like, Fiverr, as well as there was another big one before that one, Upwork. One of the items in there is that it's fully digital. So, like for instance, if you're looking for somebody to make you a video game, or if you're looking for somebody to make you video assets, which by the way, that's what all this stuff is. It comes from, places like Fiverr. Um, those are really great platforms for that. What differentiates what we're building is we're building real physical presence jobs. And what that means is, think lawn care, think, snow removal, think anything that requires you to physically be at that location. And one of the one of the critical factors, and I think this is another core differentiator, is that we purposely placed up a barrier using that trust system um, that we obviously been talking about. And keep in mind, trust system obviously uses the token um,
That right there makes that
with the idea.
separate,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
well, no other platform does it.
right.
So there are some platforms that would potentially refund a customer in an event that, something would go wrong, and they do it based off of their platform fees. But there isn't any sort of penalty for bad actors who came onto that platform from hosting a poor service and then providing a poor result, and then, not taking any damage from it. Generally speaking, in a lot of those cases, or at least I found this, is that I had to just pay the person out regardless. Um, what we're doing is a little bit different because we want to have a little bit of accountability into our system. So we've integrated that in. Now, here recently, we came up with another really cool idea where what we do is based on every single job that gets responded to, or somebody hires that particular individual. What we also do, because there's a platform fee, obviously, because this has to pay for itself. What we do is we take a portion of that and then we automatically place that into the trust system. So the idea is that that trust system will actually build over time with more and more jobs that that individual completes. And keep in mind that there's no maximum to a trust for a particular job. So the really cool thing is that as you just continue to use the platform, you actually gain more and more value behind you, which sort of brings you up in the listing because that's one of the obvious things that we're going to be doing is that for people who are really for using a common term, really putting their money where their mouth is. What we're doing is we're obviously promoting them to the highest level, dependent upon the region, because when we talk about physical work, you have to sort of physically be close to it.
Right.
So that's a really, key and core aspect. And all of this again stems from our original deployment system that we were planning to do with robotics. Um, is that, whenever you would have a deployment, you would be able to just simply, go out to that location, deliver the robotic system. The robotic system would do the work and then go from there. We're just starting human first because There's a lot of us and not many robots. That will change soon, though.
Okay, so next question is, how do you pick which AI model join, hold on, which AI models join the network?
Well, that's interesting. So, as far as what I pick for our own providers on our network, I base it off of whatever's the most popular and most importantly, the most useful. And that almost stems into a little story that I was thinking about sharing. Matter of fact, I'll go on ahead and do that right now. Where another open model called Qwen 3.8 is going to be releasing here soon. And it looks like it will be releasing on August 12th, the open model. As far as Qwen 3.8 is concerned, it's actually released right now. But in order to be able to run it on your own devices, that will be permissible August 12th at 10 a.m. When that happens, what we're going to do is we're obviously going to be downloading the model onto our computers and be able to have what's the word I'm thinking of here? I'm getting distracted a little bit. Um, we're going to download it onto our devices. We're going to do some internal testing. Obviously, we're going to, be, throwing out questions ourselves to make sure that it doesn't goof up. So far, all the testing that I've seen has been fantastic. And then from there, what we're going to do is we are going to place that onto at least one of the provider computers that we have so that literally everyone else can, pick and choose. Now, that question's a little bit loaded because, yes, as of today, we don't have many other external providers, but as the ecosystem expands, we will. And at that point, it's literally going to be just about any AI model that anyone wants to run. And when I say that, I'm not talking about just language models. I'm talking about, video models and image models and everything else that you can think of under the sun. So, at some point, it's not really going to be us that ultimately chooses. It's going to be whoever's hosting that model onto the network, which is the most important thing and what we really want to strive towards. Um, but yeah, I'm really excited about Qwen 3.8. It's pretty wild. I've heard several people say that the 27B model really behaves like a 400B model. I don't know how accurate that is, to be honest with you, because a lot of AI stuff is mostly marketing hype. But
Well, what does
yeah.
that mean? Because I have no clue.
Well, so to put it into context, the models that we use today have trillions of parameters, so they're still far more intelligent. But this is really starting to sort of close the gap in the industry to where you can literally use, systems like this in order to be able to do everyday work. So the thing that you would currently rely on ChatGPT for is literally
My
what
brain.
this can be doing. Yeah,
My brain.
yeah. Well, the crazy thing is, and I guess I'll throw out the spoiler right now. Inside of our ecosystem at ai.modular.cloud, right now, today, you can run Qwen 3.6, which is weird. They never had a 3.7. Anyway, um, all the show notes that we're doing today, all the stories and the topics and everything, we gathered that through our AI system. We didn't use another AI system. Obviously, I had some general ideas, but um, it's production ready right now to let people know. It's like, you can use it today and it is extremely useful. So I highly encourage people to go out there and use it and to be sure to, grab your free credits at the very start so that you can use those systems. It is if you forgot to use them, you can go into the payment tab and then select the coupon code Modular Start, all one word, and you'll get, I think it's 250 credits for free. Yeah, it's 250 credits. So there's no reason to not do that. And it lets you really kind of participate and play with the ecosystem a little bit more.
Yeah, go get them free credits, guys. If you haven't already, definitely check it out. All right, so the next one is, what should the community be testing right now?
Well, I would feel very comfortable in saying that the AI system is definitely test worthy. We did do quite a bit of work inside of the writer agent um, earlier in the week. I don't know where it's physically at right now, but that system is literally designed to help you write, really large novels and come up with really great storylines and ideas and characters and all that cool stuff. So that is it's connected now. So you can communicate with it properly and it will respond using an AI model. I don't know if that's necessarily prime time capable, but I don't know. Just play around with it and see what you think. There's so many things that we have to test and debug that sometimes, we'll do the work and we'll wire everything up and make it, live and everything, but we won't have time to go back in and actually be able to test it to see if it feels right and everything works as intended. So sometimes, much like what we were saying at the very beginning, we have scenarios where we're looking for you to come in and say, "Hey, what's wrong with this thing? It's not doing what we expected." So yeah, definitely as always, keep up the feedback. But the other item is with modular gig listings. I think that those going out there is something that is worthwhile. And again, at the end of the day, you do have free credits, but do realize that those do take credits now, and it is a real active system. So,
So what happens when they run out of credits?
well, when you run out of credits, you run out of credits. You either have to, well, in either case, you have to pay for them. But we would highly recommend that you use the EMDR token in order to pay for it because you get a inherent bonus um, whenever you get what's the word I'm thinking of? Whenever you get a credit. So imagine, you go into, we have a couple different tiers. So like the $20 tier, for instance, I believe you get a 5% bonus on that. So
Oh, that's
you
good.
you
Yeah.
would literally get that 250 again.
Oh yeah,
So
5% is pretty good.
it's
Yeah.
a huge opportunity to go in and use your EMDR credits. But as always, we utilize Stripe. So if you want to pay with cash, you can pay with cash. And then, we also offer USDC as another payment rail as well, which is weird because I didn't realize this. Apparently, Stripe also allows people to use USDC as a payment rail, which
Yeah.
I've never used that, so don't ask me how to use it,
We
but
was
I noticed it was an option.
Yeah, we was talking the other day. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but we was talking about like Klarna and all that. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know what options are on there, if it's just
Yeah, I remember.
Stripe or what it is, but that's good information to know. I'll have to check that out myself.
Yeah, I forgot all about that, but I know for a fact that Klarna was on there.
Oh,
So,
see?
yeah.
And you probably could get it for, a good deal because I've used that before on other things, especially like TikTok, yeah, shopping. My bad. All right. Anyhow, is there anything else you would like to go over as far as like questions? Because if not, we're going to jump into like the news part.
Yeah, I think honestly we could probably hit on the news. The only other thing that I'll throw out there, and I forgot to mention this at the very beginning, is that we are very closely reaching our 1 year anniversary, which is freaking insane to me. And what we mean by that is not the anniversary of the company and the organization, but actually from the anniversary from the token launch. So on the 20th, we're going to be celebrating our 1 year, which I think is on a Saturday, to be honest with you. But what we're doing right now is we're throwing out a new campaign where, basically, definitely check the post for all the terms and conditions. But the idea is that for people who have signed up to the ambassador forum, which I highly encourage everyone to sign up for that. If I can remember, maybe I'll put it into the description down below on YouTube. But if you go there and answer all the questions and everything like that, we will
For
be
ambassador,
right.
yes.
we'll be randomly choosing one of those individuals. And obviously, we're looking for people who have been engaged and posting about modular. I
You have
can't
to be
remember all the other terms and
active in
conditions.
the community.
Right,
You have to be a token holder,
right.
um, and fill out the application.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So it's pretty
it's easy.
straightforward.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, it's a lot like our ambassador program. And I'm still contemplating on a couple other ideas that we could also do, but I think every single one of them is going to center around the ambassador form.
And it's
So
going to be random,
we
like,
may,
right?
yeah, that one's going to be random.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's an amazing opportunity. So we definitely encourage people to go in and engage and react to that, and share it around and all that good stuff.
We might
I
have to
think
get some
that was
sparkling water and some cake.
we'll have to get cake for
Yeah,
sure.
it's definitely a good celebration to be celebrating. I mean, yeah, it's a good day.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I think that would be another week where we do a podcast. So the next podcast will actually be the birthday celebration.
There you go. Awesome. Okay, anything else?
Um, I think that's really just about it. I think we're ready to kind of go into news stories. I will ask this though, in the comments below, um, if you would go on ahead and let us know if there is if anyone's interested in us looking at like Bitcoin, the charts is what I mean when I say that, because that is something that we have. I know that Ashley has it on her laptop as far as TradingView is concerned. So if you want to do, if you would like for us to do a version of like technical analysis or anything like that, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of
Just,
more ideas
yeah,
that you can potentially inject into the podcast that'll, potentially, kind of get people engaged. I've been pretty happy with Bitcoin recently, even though, well, I think this is actually one of our stories. Michael Saylor ended up selling like 1,600 Bitcoin or something like that, and it's like, holy crap.
yeah.
So I'm glad that, everything is sort of equalizing there, but it's it's pretty good overall. But yeah, let's go on ahead and hit on the stories. I'll quit blabbing.
You're all right. So what's going on with Apple and OpenAI?
Well, so this one is a really interesting story. So my understanding is that with Apple in particular, what had happened is that they had some employees that fundamentally transplanted from one entity to another.
I didn't see none of that.
And long story short, they ended up taking some engineering documentation from Apple and then using that documentation in order to train OpenAI models. So there's a really huge problem with that because obviously, well, there's two different things. One, a former employee shouldn't be carrying their previous company works, or they shouldn't assume that they own them, which is funny based on what we had to go through this week. Uh, Cliff notes there is we had a former employee that thought that they owned something that they did while being an employee here, and we had to fix that for them. But anyway, the other thing is what happens whenever you have model trainings on proprietary data. What does that actually look like? So one of the things that I wanted to try with this podcast, because this is the first time we've actually done video, is I wanted to sort of do like a reaction video to another YouTube channel called Fireship, and honestly, I personally enjoy a lot of his
In
content.
2024, Apple and OpenAI got married in a shotgun wedding on stage at WWDC. Tim Cook put ChatGPT inside the iPhone, while Sam Altman watched from the audience. They were the unambiguously gay duo, and together they thought they could rebrand artificial intelligence to Apple Intelligence. With a marketing campaign so effective, it inspired me to buy an Android phone. But it only took 2 years for these two companies to become mortal enemies. Last Friday, Apple filed a 41-page lawsuit calling OpenAI's hardware business rotten to its core, with bombshell allegations of trade secret theft. Behind the scenes, Scam Altman was doing what Scam Altman does best: scamming, allegedly. What Apple failed to realize is that he doesn't just want to do business with Apple, He wants to eat the apple. In today's video, we'll take a look at OpenAI's hardware strategy and the craziest claims in this lawsuit. It is July 17th, 2026, and you're watching the Code Report. Apple is terrified of OpenAI.
So yeah, with that right there, it really kind of hits on, where the story is actually coming from. Because it's not fundamentally good to basically be taking, previous companies' assets
Right.
and pretending that they're your own. But
What happens when the worker isn't even a person?
now that is a huge question. And honestly, I don't know what the answer is. But I will say that in this particular case, or it should be, I don't know, maybe Fireship actually knows something that I don't. But yeah, this one in particular was people were taking documents like thumb drives out of Apple and then handing it over to OpenAI in order to train their models, which, the model does exactly what it's told to do. So yeah, especially with all the recent activity with, hacking, I put that in quotes, other various entities and everything, AI models just doing that themselves, it gets a little hairy after a while.
OpenAI. OpenAI has already poached over 400 Apple employees, but more importantly, OpenAI has plans to get into the hardware game. Not long ago, they bought Johnny Ive's stealth startup, IO, for $6.5 billion. That's over $3 billion per lowercase letter. Johnny Ive spent about 30 years at Apple and worked closely with Steve Jobs to create the visual language for the iPhone, iMac, iPod, and so on. But now he's working with Sam on a device that wants to make your iPhone obsolete. No official details have been released, but we just got a leak a few days ago, and apparently this futuristic device is a mobile, screen-free home smart speaker. A quote, OpenAI believes the product's defining feature will be its personality and ability to connect on a
So it sounds like they want to make Alexa 2.0.
Maybe.
human-like level with users. The speaker incorporates mechanical elements that can move on their own, creating a sense that it's alive and not just an object responding to commands. You heard that right. It sounds like they're basically just building an Alexa smart speaker with that voice they stole from Scarlett Johansson in the Johnny Ive design language.
I didn't
But I
rewatch it.
highly doubt that's going to be a successful product because I've watched every single Husk IRL video.
Tell me a fun fact about Mike.
Sure. A fun fact about Mike Hogg is that he and Tony grew up surfing together.
But Apple doesn't think OpenAI is playing fair when it comes to their hardware strategy, which brings us to last Friday when Apple filed the divorce papers accusing OpenAI of trade secret theft at every level. The lawsuit names OpenAI, IO, and two ex-Apple employees, including Tang Tan, OpenAI's hardware chief and former Apple vice president. The lawsuit claims that Tan told Apple engineers interviewing at OpenAI to bring, quote, actual parts for show and tell. Most interviews like this just have you invert a binary tree, but at OpenAI, they want you to show up with stolen prototypes. But it gets better because Apple says OpenAI also circulated a cheat sheet teaching recruits how to dodge the dreaded walkout, where security escorts you out the door the moment you resign. And that's important to OpenAI.
I had no idea that they did that. That's
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's I don't know, is that close? I don't think that's corporate espionage, but like it's dangerously close. And what in the hell were they thinking? Apple is literally one of the biggest. I mean, yeah, they were overtaken by Nvidia not that long ago, but
But they're a
they're
big
they're
company.
massive.
Yeah. I don't know.
OpenAI because it would allow you an extra 2 weeks to work at Apple and steal confidential data from them. But now it's time to meet Chang Liu, allegedly the worst spy in corporate history. This guy was a senior electrical engineer at Apple who got the job at OpenAI and then found an authentication bug in Apple's systems. He celebrated it on unencrypted channels, texting a coworker, "Laugh out loud. I found out I can access the network storage. So funny." To which she replied, "I'm ready." And what's even better is he allegedly did the accessing from her Apple-issued work laptop, which of course is owned and monitored by Apple and collected on your way out. Then, hours after quitting, he allegedly texted, "I still have another computer," referring to a second Apple machine that he planned to keep using even after he quit. And he would have gotten away with it too had Apple not found that message on the company laptop. And this whole situation is proof that just because you're a 10x engineer, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're also going to be a 10x criminal. But at the end of the day, I don't feel that bad for Apple, because you might remember 50 years ago, Steve Jobs went on a tour of Xerox PARC, and after seeing things like the GUI and the mouse, he had his engineers steal these ideas. And then
Yes and no. So yeah, they did go to Xerox, and that is literally how today you have, a mouse and a keyboard and everything else like that. But Xerox literally put no value into it, and you know, Steve saw it and he recreated it. So that's what we generally call in the industry, what is it, white lab engineering, where you effectively look at something, you can't go into it and duplicate it, but you can duplicate how it actually works. And in those particular cases, you're not actually infringing on IP. Yeah, sort of, but ultimately, no, not really. Always thought it was a little bit funny though, whenever Apple got upset with Microsoft, because a lot of you may not know this, but when Microsoft first introduced a proper GUI environment, I was told stories at least that Steve didn't take that very well because Apple was the first to actually create those sort of environments and experiences.
he stole this quote from Picasso: "Good artists copy, great artists steal." The worst kept secret in tech is that the only way to get ahead is to steal. But before you can steal effectively, you need to have the right computing platform. Like HyperAgent, the sponsor of today's video. It's a platform created by the team at Airtable that lets you build and deploy agents that run in the cloud with a full computing environment. I used it to build a custom research agent for our Bytes newsletter called Mr. Bittens that studies our past issues. It scouts hacker news and tech Twitter and posts the best topics in our team Slack every weekday at 8 a.m. And whenever Mr. Bittens posts something irrelevant, I can verbally abuse, lovingly correct it, and the agent will save the fix as a skill so it never makes the same mistake twice. Each agent gets its own login to hundreds of tools, which lets it work in Slack, Gmail, and everywhere else your team already lives. And HyperAgent is giving away $500 in credits to the first 500 people to sign up. Claim yours at the link below. This has been the Code Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you
In the next one. So that's really cool. And actually, that hyper agent at the end, that is one of the things that I've been working on, like custom login screens for AS. But anyway, um, that is pretty wild. And yeah, I think that really kind of goes in to, really show that, you have to be careful in the technology space with your, intellectual property.
Right.
Um,
It
in
takes
that
time.
in that particular case, though, that is absolutely insane because they didn't just observe the technologies; they literally were duplicating them. So I find it a little bit disturbing in that sense. Now, I mean, I guess is it really that bad though? Because based on what we know from this article, um, what they're saying is that they're creating effectively a smart speaker. And I can see that being a really big problem if they stole it from Amazon. But as far as I know, I don't, and you would know this better than I do. Does Apple even have a smart speaker system?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't think so because every time you and I, when I've, gone through a situation that I'm dealing with, trying to get, um, like the Google speaker and all that, like I haven't seen it. It's always been
Hmm.
Google or the Amazon. What's another one? Uh,
I think those are
it starts with an
really the
E,
only two.
I think.
Echo.
Echo. Is
But
that?
I
But
still think
is
that's
that
Amazon.
okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think Apple has one. I could be wrong though, because like I'm not a person that's
And
like
maybe in this particular
smart enough.
case,
So
it could have been that Apple was designing this in the background and they were trying to perfect it.
maybe so.
I'm not sure. But yeah, I thought that that story was pretty wild, and
That
that's
is very
definitely something that I wanted to share because I think that happened. What was it? Right after our last um, podcast, and I was like, "Damn, that would have been a really good one to show off." But anyway, we do it late. It is what it is.
okay. So excuse me. So what happened with Meta's AI this week?
So I don't really have a news story for this one. I wasn't able to find a good one. But what I do know of the situation, it seems as though it's a lot like what had happened previously with OpenAI. They created the sandbox and then the AI went out of the sandbox and did things. I still believe fundamentally, and Claude did the same thing too, but I didn't feel like talking about Claude. I really believe that these are just marketing stunts at this point, because they want to show that, hey, our AI is really intelligent, it's capable of breaking out. Um, you know, at the end of the day, the AI does exactly what you tell it to do verbatim. Um, and yeah, there needs to be a little bit of care taken whenever you go in and, you basically talk to these AI systems in order to get it to do whatever it is that they're doing. But it is one of those things where it makes them look really good whenever their AI systems are doing these bad things because it makes it seem as though they're sentient. I think I've said this before, but no AI system is sentient. It's just guessing the next word in a sequence of words. There is no real intelligence there. Even their thinking systems are still just word guessing systems. It's just create an inner monologue in order to, you know, create the idea or the process of thinking.
So
Um,
does it matter which AI model you would use? Like, is there, I
well,
mean,
yes
there's
and no.
different tiers, right?
Yeah.
Like,
So it goes back to what we were saying before, how many parameters you have. And the top tier models are in the trillions of parameters. That was me, not you. And obviously that means that, they have more brain capacity or higher IQ maybe. But, given enough time, even the smaller models, they're capable of doing these exact same things. And, you throw a brick at something long enough, you're going to break something. So that's literally what's happening with these AI systems, as far as I can tell. Now, maybe there's something nuanced about this particular story, but I don't think so.
so we touched on Qwen 3.8. Is there anything else you want to go over on that?
No, I'm just really excited to release that out to the public and get everyone's opinion on it because it's going to be huge in my opinion, as far as how it's going to react in our ecosystem. And I'm really hoping that it's better for tool calling. That's something
Yeah.
that the older AI systems are terrible at, but the newer ones are actually able to do it fairly reasonable. So I would highly recommend, by the way, if you're using modular AI, to use Qwen 3.6 more than anything else.
All right. So we're gonna go over to this. I have no clue, and I'm excited to hear
Oh
about it.
yeah,
So
this is so
tell me
cool.
about this robot.
Yeah, this video is a little bit cool. I don't know why it autoplays whenever I hit the tab. But literally what happened here is, and again, this is another really good one that happened after we literally hung up last week. And one of the things is that you have a robot here that's clearly in a fight scenario, and I put that in quotes for a reason. But anyway, just take a look. It's kind of funny. One of them loses their head.
高扫的踢到了对方的头部，重点是不会用力。哦！进行了反击，梅开三度，这是双方势均力敌。哇，头断了，头断了。
So what you're seeing here, and I won't play the whole thing just in case. I don't know what'll actually get us in trouble more so than anything else. But what you're seeing is that these robots are in an arena seemingly fighting each other. The reason I put it in quotes is, for one, they're actually being controlled by other people.
I was about ready
That's
to
the
ask
most
you if that
important
if
thing.
they were
They're
actually
not
thinking.
autonomous.
So like, is this something they was actually thinking, or somebody like actually like playing a video game,
Right.
controlling it, right?
Well, the other side of it is that they're using predefined motor movements. It's not something that is naturally happening with this environment.
Well, they was going pretty quick,
So,
so that's
yeah,
yeah.
literally what they're doing is they're pushing a button, and then that's calling an action or a routine to emit. And that's literally what we were doing with our robotic systems too, is we were wiring up capabilities to where you could push a button and like the dog flips, if you remember that one from long ago. So, anyway. I thought it was really neat. And the fact that the head was sort of coming off kind of shows you what that's all about. Because if the head comes off, obviously the brain isn't in there. Generally, the brain is like on their back. So if there's ever a robot uprising, you know where to aim. But as far as that goes, since the head was off and to the side, the camera system would have been really messed up, and it still worked. So it kind of tells you everything you need to know as far as like, okay, this robotic system is not actually fighting. They will soon. And that's one of the things that we obviously work on too with our AI and agentic systems, where what we want to do is we want to capture the environment that they're currently in and then be able to respond to that environment.
I wasn't sure what video he was gonna show because, like, I seen something. I don't know if it was on X, it was somewhere, but somebody posted who did it better, and it was a robot and a kid, and their robot like kicked the kid.
Yep.
Yeah,
Same thing happened.
yeah.
The
So like
robot was
it's
just in a routine. It didn't do
yeah,
it. It didn't do it on purpose.
no,
It literally it's just like any other machine. You push a button and it does exactly what it's told to do.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. All right, so um, let's go. What's going on with Bitcoin and strategy?
So I guess we sort of talked about this earlier, but the long and short is that MicroStrategy, I think, from literally last month to what is it, August 2nd or 3rd, they sold over 1,600 Bitcoin, which is massive in my opinion because that related to, I think it was over 80 mil. Um, and the crazy thing is that it doesn't seem to really have that much of an impact on the Bitcoin price. Matter of fact, it recently went up. So yeah, it's a little concerning to be completely honest with you, but at the end of the day, it's actually a little bit positive that even somebody as large as Michael is able to be able to sell Bitcoin, which he does it because of his company relationships. But to be able to do that and then it still gets absorbed, I think is pretty huge for the industry. And as we all know, everything hinges on Bitcoin, whether you like it or not. Um, which we in particular are more hingent on Ethereum, but guess what? Ethereum depends on Bitcoin.
Right.
Um, so I think that having that is actually really important um, from a perspective of like, um, the industry is still strong. And I do believe that within the next couple of months, we'll be out of the bear market for sure. I know that the bear market has been really rough. I mean, it's been rough for us for sure. But I am very optimistic to see that, when the charts start to, slowly increase and not go back to their previous levels, I think that's going to be pretty massive.
Yeah. All right, so that is all of our news. So anything that you would like to share? Because I think that we pretty much covered everything, and
Hmm.
we tested the modular.gig with us.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's really about it, to be honest with you. We hit on we wanted to send out a reminder and yet another reminder right now that we do have a campaign running for our 1 year anniversary. So definitely go out there and, participate. And I guess at some point we're going to have cake and ice cream. I don't
Yeah.
know. So that'll be fun.
We might
I'm
have it on
still
our next
thinking
podcast. Yeah.
of other ideas of what else we could do um, for our 1 year anniversary. So if you have any suggestions, definitely throw them in the comments below. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, if you would hit the like and subscribe button, and that way you're notified whenever we, obviously release another video. And let us know what you think about this format right here. It took us a pretty good while to get the set completely up and ready. Um, and to make it look all nice and neat. I can tell you Ashley's the one that ended up putting the table together. So if it ever falls down, you know who to blame.
Well, and I did drill the holes in the wrong spot, so you can't see that. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
did. I
you
did put it
used the plant.
together, and Chris, he ended up having to help me. So yeah, it was two of us, but we did
Yeah,
it.
but yeah, I think that's about it.
It's just, you know, gotta, I guess, wing it until it all goes together.
That's right.
I mean, it's together.
It is together.
We
It's
just,
pretty solid.
we
But
just don't know till we get more questions and what you guys would like to see
yeah.
from us and all that.
And definitely, we did pivot from the idea of the AMA format to this podcast format. But if you have questions in general, this is the perfect show in order to be able to throw those out there.
Yeah, good
So,
ideas, anything.
let us know where you're at, what you're thinking, and we'll keep on rocking and rolling over here. Really excited about what's to come up next week. I really wanted the gig stuff to be done this week, but I still feel as though there's more testing. So we'll we'll have a better update by the time we get to our next podcast for sure.
So if you guys just want to keep, you know, watching us, checking us out, follow us, um, comment, share, all that good stuff. And yeah, I guess that's good. Until next time, right?
See you next time,
Until
guys.
next time. Have a great weekend.
Peace.